Hello and welcome back to the garden, back to the white garden. And today's video is all about bringing Christmas here to the white garden because it's looking quite boring this time of year. It's become a bit of a tradition in the household that we decorate the patio area and also inside the garden area for Christmas, adding baubles, pine cones, evergreens and some pots that I'll make up. And that's the first project, to create 2 statement pots using hedge trimmings and also other evergreens that I've got from around the garden. Got some wooden Christmas trees I think I'll use as a centerpiece this year too. But I do this every year. It's very easy. I have this very large pot. I like to make big pots because you can actually get more in them. But I don't fill all of this full of soil. It's just one plastic pot like this, which I fit inside. I add the soil to it, force it down so it's nice and firm. Obviously it'll freeze at some point in the next couple of weeks. And then I just add the evergreens. Now these are all Leylandii hedge trimmings. And I like to use these because it has a nice draping effect around the front of the pot. And they're free, it doesn't cost me anything. So around the perimeter of the pot, that's the first thing I'm going to add. When I'm happy that I've covered the pot with enough of these hedge cuttings, the next thing is to add the middle. Now normally in the past I've always gone with these lovely white painted branches, but I thought this year I'm going to try something different, and I used these last year, these painted trees in a pot in the middle of the garden, but this year I've repainted them. I've added screws to every point and then looped around some lights. And hopefully they'll look pretty effective at night. Oh, can't you see all of the geese flying overhead? You probably can't see it from your angle. Anyhow, I'm going to add these in the middle. You can add something on the top, a brick, a stone, gravel, anything to keep them secure in place. But what I'm going to do is just add some more branches around and they'll fix them in position. So I've got the battery pack just to one side. I'm just going to leave that dangling for now. I'll bury it in the container when I'm finished, but I'm just adding these branches from a Nordman fir. Now, this is a Christmas tree that I bought from the garden centre, a cut tree, and I buy one every year and I use them in decorations like this for indoors and outdoors. So I'm just forcing it down into the soil and it'll fix these trees in position at the same time. I'm happy with the amount of greenery in here, so I'm going to add the finishing touches, and these are 4 flowers or 4 winterberry stems. Again, they're white because I'm in the white garden, and I just think they'll add a bit of colour to the front of the pot. And the last thing to add is a couple of painted pine cones. Again, I've had these for a long time, many years. I just keep bringing them out every year. And I just think that'll finish off the front of the pot quite nicely. Now it's the next day. Did manage to finish off those 2 big pots yesterday. Thought it got quite dark quite quickly. But now I'm moving on to the next project, and that's to make use of these topiary trees, these evergreen trees. And the first thing is to add some lights. So I'm just using the spiral, and these are battery lights, and I'm just going round and round the spiral till I get to the bottom. Hopefully this string of lights will be long enough. Next I'm adding some baubles. These are shatterproof baubles, different shades of white, and I'm just going to add them with a zip tie to the branches of the evergreen. Very easy to do. And I think if I follow the spirals around, I'll get a good effect. Last one. The next mini project is to brighten up this container. Now this is one of those box topiary trees that resides all year round in this particular pot, and in the spring I'll add primulas, in the summer I'll add annuals, but this time of year it's stripped of everything and it's looking pretty bare. So I'm going to add some different greens, shrub, hedge trimmings, everything that I've foraged around the garden. Got some holly, some winter berries, some pine cones, so I thought might as well pretty it up for this time of year. So the first thing I'm going to add is my trusty Lelandii hedge trimmings. Again, I keep everything when I cut these shrubs and hedge trimmings back in the autumn, and I like this particular one because it drapes over the side. That's the first layer in. The next layer will be some of these cut branches from the Christmas tree that I mentioned earlier that I actually bought, one of these cut trees, and I'm just going to add these around, again around the perimeter, forcing them down into the compost. And if anyone's wondering how long all of this would last, I do these every year, and by the end of January I'm more bored with them than them actually dying out. They look good for months because everything that I'm using takes such a long time to break down. So I'm just going to add those for that Christmas feel. Now I'm happy with how it's looking, but it's very green. So I'm now going to add, I think, some of these clippings from a rhododendron. So I'm just going to add those at the front just to brighten the front section up. Not technically white, but I'm limited this time of year to what I can add, which is white. But I think if I add those in the front section, I've also got some pierias here, could add those. But I think I'll stick with these variegated clippings. Because I think it gives a nice bit of brightness to the front of the pot. Next I'm adding some holly. Now this is obviously very spiky, so I'm being a bit careful how I add this. But just a few sprigs around and about the sides. All the holly originally did have berries, but the birds have made good use of them. And last but not least, some pine cones, just to give a bit of colour. These have been wired on to some florist wire. And I do have a few for winter berries, white winter berries, and I think that will just add a nice little touch around the front, just to lift it. That's basically it. Took about 5 minutes. Really worth it. As I said, it'll last till the end of January into February, even in our dreadful wet weather. It's the next day. Hopefully the rain will stay away until I finish this video. But the last container that I want to complete for the white garden is very basic. I'm using these white painted branches that I've used for the last few years. They're getting a little bit worse for wear now. Probably going to have to either repaint them or possibly even replace them in the very near future. But they'll do for this year. And I'm just adding them as a centerpiece in this container, and I'm going to use the greens that I've got left to surround it. Maybe put some pine cones in too. We'll see what it looks like. So I'm now just adding the greens around the perimeter of the container. Just using what I've got left. And hopefully I've got enough for 2 of these. I've certainly got enough branches for 2. Just adding a few taller pieces so they stand up within the branches. I've kept the container very simple, just the 2 elements, but I think I'm just going to add a few pine cones. Again, these are pine cones that I've had for many years on some sticks that I glued on when I used them last year. And I think I'll just add them around and about the front just to give a little bit of interest to the pot. And some of these are a little bit long, so I'm just going to cut them down to size because they're easier to add that way. I'm just adding a tiny bit of this paint spray that I found in the cupboard onto the pine cones when I'm adding them. I could have used the snow spray, but with all the rain that we get, it washes off too quickly. Hopefully these will dry in the next couple of hours because it's quite windy today. Time will tell whether it actually washes off. But that's it, this is the last container. The next project is to dress the patio, move containers into the white garden, add some lights, and I'll show you what it all looks like at the end.
fixing streetlights and covered trees. Kids like this stuff when it's up to their knees. Time seems to freeze. The smell of what's cooking, a chill in the air. There's wood in the fireplace and music in the air. I can't find a care. The shoppers and workers all bustle about, and people say out loud, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. The best time of the year. Presents are wrapped up and loved ones are near. Stockings are hung with the names we hold dear. I'm so glad you're here. The babies are sleeping so deep and so sound, and old folks say out loud, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. It's the best time of the year. So make the drive, hang up the lights, drink up the chocolate, maybe some wine. 'Tis the season for feeling fine. Forget your problems for once. Have a beautiful time. Snowflakes and bright lights and colored trees. Torn wrapping paper is up to their knees. Time seems to freeze. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. The best time of the year. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. It's the best time